Am I the only one who thinks that our food supply system and our supply chain are questionable at best and most likely broken beyond repair? That's maybe why you started farming or why you started looking on YouTube for videos like this. The way that we fix it is that we make America farmers again. Hey guys, I'm Steven from Roan Ridge Farm, and this video tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about a concern that I think is pretty relevant to most of us. I know that it seems like COVID was a really long time ago, but I'm old enough to remember when we had to go out to the grocery stores and ask permission to buy a certain amount of items so that we could feed ourselves and our families. And it was at that time where I had a wake up call and realized, you know what? There's a lot of vulnerability here that we have when we don't know where this food comes from precisely. We don't know how it got here. And there's somebody else handling all these other things. All of those other questions about the how, the why, and the where, all of that stuff is now somebody else's problem because I want to go to the gym, or I want to go watch stuff on YouTube or work out. Maybe I want to go play video games. All of those things become somebody else's problem because I'm too busy. I don't need to know where my food is coming from. It's always going to be there. And then all of a sudden, things shifted a little bit, and it was like, oh, actually, that stuff is a little bit more precariously balanced than what we realize. And the answer to all of this, in my view, is to look at the fact that our society is not heading in a direction that most people have been happy with. And I'm not going to go down a strictly political road here, but socially, just the disconnect that we have from each other as a country and in our communities, everybody's on their phones, myself included. It's difficult to avoid falling into that trap because that's how the sausage gets made, if you pardon the pun. We're not happy with the way that society is going, and we feel vulnerable, and we want to have something that is real, something that is ours, something with some substance. And we don't just want to have cheap swill shoveled into our bowls like the slop that we give to the hogs. We want quality for ourselves and for our family. And it's a lot easier to go on at length about how we need to defund this, we need to elect so and so, and all of that stuff, the political and social commentary. There's room for all of that. But I think at a very basic level, it's the individuals in society that have the opportunity to make changes in the culture in the most meaningful and obvious ways. And instead of trying to go way down the line and get somebody elected in a federal office or even in a state office to change things, rather to build the culture within our own community that we want to see, where we can participate directly in the production of our own food, in the literal mechanisms and tools that we rely on for our survival, so that when a situation comes up like the avian flu, where you have government actors who, again, not saying that they're wrong necessarily, because this is a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but at the end of the day, I know a lot of chickens have been killed. I know that I didn't have anything to say about that. And yet I know that wherever these chickens were and wherever they went, that happened somewhere else. But yet it's affecting my ability to have eggs and feed my family because that price has gone up. It's an example of how fragile that food supply chain is and how much we rely on it. And when you rely on something like that, you are automatically signing over your freedom and your self reliance in exchange for convenience. I have a brother in law, God bless him. If you're watching, Mario, love you. We always used to talk about prepping. He's a big prepper. I would say I'm a prepper of sorts, but not maybe what you would stereotypically think of as a prepper, to look at me and to see the way that I live and what I prioritize. But since I started farming, it became very clear to me that the best preparedness is not trying to be a one man band that can do every single thing themselves. It's to have one thing that you can do well enough to be able to offer value to other people in your community, to know people locally who are good at the things that you suck at, so that you can work together and still maintain some semblance of exchange, barter, and giving value and exchanging value in a time of crisis. or when things are difficult. And the biggest thing is that this is not a mindset that used to be relegated to disaster preparedness or these kind of worst case scenarios. This was just like how you lived your life. And this is all part of farming. And learning how interconnected we are as communities and how that community develops around farming is one of the biggest assets that I have gotten from farming that I never really saw coming and I didn't really realize it. It's not just that, oh, I have the food that I'm growing and I get to eat that. It's that in the process of raising pigs or selling pork, I'm meeting people that have cows. I'm meeting people that grow corn, that grow their own food and make their own feed for animals, including pigs. I'm meeting people who are electricians who have much greater skill sets than I do in the world of combat arms, can provide security. There's all these different things where if I want to do something, I know somebody who is going to work with me in a situation to help me out. And that community is much stronger than I could ever be, even at the apex of my possible range of proficiency at any of these random sets of skills. If you want a wake up call to really realize how fragile our food system is and our survival, like the idea of modern survival, we have all of these very complex mechanisms that are balanced on a point that is the size of a pinhead, and everything is trying to balance on there and stay focused all at one point. And we're blissfully unaware because we're lost in the matrix and we're just doing our thing and we're floating around in there on our phone and laughing at funny memes while we're taking a shit and scrolling through Instagram or watching videos like this. And that's all well and good. I'm not against any of that necessarily because, hey, it's fun. I do it too. But the reality is that if you want to actually open up the hood and look underneath and really get an idea for how the world works, start farming, start producing something that everybody else needs, but don't realize where it actually comes from. Have a few conversations with people about this is where your pork comes from. And when they ask you, like, how many hams they can get out of the pig, you start to realize, wow, people really don't know this. And I'm not saying this in judgment or condemnation of the people, because a couple years ago, I didn't know this. And it's only now that I've been learning this and realizing how much goes into producing something and the extent to which, if you're producing a product that other people need or that you're making for your own family and your own friends, how much interference you will get from the government and the powers that be. They're not there to help you succeed. They are there to get in your way and tell you a million different reasons why you shouldn't do this, why you shouldn't do that. And it's all for very good reasons, good intentions. We want to be careful of this and the environmental concerns over here. And then we have health concerns over there, and there's these risks. So, what procedures are you following? Can you show me how you're doing this, that, and the other thing? And all that sounds really good. But the reality is, once you start growing your own animal and you're like, hey, you know what? I got two pigs. Maybe I could butcher this pig and sell it to a friend because they want to buy it from me. And they're like, hey, here's the money. Can I buy the pig? And you say, actually, not so fast. No, we have to take it to a shop where it can be inspected by a USDA, a federal official. What benefit does that give you? I have a butcher shop here. It's clean and it's functional. Or my friend has a butcher shop down the road. It's clean and it's functional. The bleach doesn't work any better at the USDA shop than it does at my butcher shop. The difference is that there's a government employee there that is given authority to tell you, you are allowed to sell this, you are now allowed to buy this, and this is how you are now allowed to subdivide that. And when you realize what a big difference that makes for small farmers who are selling two, three, four pigs at a time, compared to large industrial farms that are selling 10,000 pigs at a time and don't have any problem getting processing dates for 10,000 animals because, hey, it's 10,000 animals. The butcher shops see them coming a mile away and they're like, yeah, we're clearing our schedule for that. But you show up with a couple animals. I only have three. Can you take this and process for me so that I'm allowed to legally sell this stuff to stores, restaurants, and other people? Well, you only have three. No, we need a minimum of 10 before we're going to touch the stuff. So then what am I supposed to do with my three animals? I can't do anything with it. And then I say, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get out of farming. It's too much work. I'm not able to get over that hurdle because the hurdle really only works to keep small producers out of the game. And the problem is when I'm as a small producer and I go tell people and say, hey, this is how things are stacked up against me as a small producer. And then they go to the store, they buy Smithfield pork, they go home, have bacon and eggs, their family, and they don't think twice about it. When more people are participating in small agricultural systems, this stuff becomes a lot more apparent to a lot more people. And it's not something that weirdos have to bitch about and, these hidden corners of the internet, but rather it's something where people get together and say, hey, you know what? There's enough of us that want to buy food from the farmers that are in our community. We get to say if we're going to buy it and eat it. We don't need the federal government to tell us whether or not we're allowed to buy and eat food based on what they think. It's my food when I buy it and I'm going to put it in my mouth. If I want to buy a pack of pork chops and somebody else wants to buy the bacon, who are you to tell me that I can't sell it that way? Do you think that it's fair that farmers should be forced into a situation where they have to go through all of these inspections and jump through hoops just to eliminate risk when they have willing buyers that are able to come to the farm, see how things are produced, are totally fine with it and say, yeah, I'd like to buy it, but I can't because the federal government hasn't given me a stamp of approval on that. Is that a good thing? Or am I all mixed up about it? I want to leave you with the idea that instead of being upset about the way our society is going, whether you're happy with the current political situation or unhappy or somewhere in the middle, the best thing to do is make our communities smaller, make our politics smaller, make our food smaller, keep everything smaller and more local where we are able to participate on a more granular level, where we are able to get in there, make the changes that we want to see instead of waiting for multi-billion-dollar industries to succumb to pangs of conscience and decide that, oh, you know what, maybe we're going to throw away our golden parachutes and we're going to actually go back to doing things from scratch the way they were 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. That's probably not going to happen. The best scenario is to make it easier for people in your community to be able to interact with you, to be able to buy from you, and starve the massive agricultural industry of all of the resources that have led to everything becoming so disconnected in the food system. If you think I'm wrong, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I promise to get back to you in a future video. Until then, this is Stephen at the Hackett Swamp Meat Locker in the free state of New Hampshire. Agree or disagree, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like the video, share it with your friends. Until next time, make America farmers again.